The Cleveland Browns are facing serious heat after former quarterback Robert Griffin III came forward to call out the front office. And this time, the numbers back him up. According to RG3, rookie QB Shedeur Sanders didn't get a fair shot. And when you break down the reps, the rosters, and the results, it's hard to argue otherwise. The Browns claimed it was a real QB competition. 4 guys, 1 goal. Best man wins the job. Open battle, clean slate. That was the narrative, until the details started surfacing. And now, fans, analysts, and former players are all asking the same thing. Was Shedeur set up to fail from the start? He wasn't just buried on the depth chart. He was placed behind practice squad-level offensive linemen, given no first-team reps, and left running plays with receivers who didn't even make the final roster. And yet, when he did get a real shot on a big stage, Sanders balled out. 2 touchdowns, 0 picks, poise that didn't look the slightest bit rookie. But instead of building on that, the Browns kept him chained to the bottom of the rotation. Why? That's where this story gets uncomfortable. Because when the cameras are off and the Instagram moments fade away, the real battles in the NFL often aren't about skill or stats. They're about politics. And when a player like Shedeur Sanders starts drawing national attention before earning the coach's approval, things start shifting behind the scenes. So what's the truth? Is this just another Browns quarterback misfire or something deeper? Because when a former top pick says a franchise is hiding talent, that's not just drama, that's a warning. And the more you dig into what happened with Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland, when a 5th-round rookie steps on the field and outperforms expectations, that's usually the start of something, not the end. In his preseason debut, Shedeur Sanders didn't just survive, he impressed. Cool under pressure, sharp reads, decisive throws, he looked like a quarterback who belonged. 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, nearly 250 yards through the air. Stats like that don't lie, but apparently they don't guarantee opportunity either, because instead of earning more reps, Shedeur was pushed back down the depth chart. While other rookies moved up, got extended looks, or saw time with the first team, Shedeur was locked into garbage time minutes with 3rd and 4th string players. Guys who days later were cut, waived, or headed for practice squads. And still, he made plays. For a moment, it looked like Cleveland had something special. The fans felt it. Social media started buzzing. Even critics who doubted him before the draft were starting to lean in. But then, silence. No bump in reps. No post-game acknowledgement from leadership. No clearer role heading into the next week. It was as if Shedeur's performance had never happened. And that's what made it worse. Not just the disregard, but the indifference. Because this wasn't a bad outing the team could quietly ignore. It was a statement game. One that should have earned more opportunity. One that should have changed the quarterback conversation entirely. But instead, it solidified something darker. That the outcome didn't matter. Only the narrative did. And for Shedeur Sanders, that was the first sign that something wasn't right in Cleveland. If you only looked at the headlines, you'd think Shedeur Sanders simply didn't win the quarterback battle. But that assumes there actually was a battle. ... That's where RG3 drops the bomb. He took to the mic and laid it out in front of everyone. Shedeur never got equal reps. Forgive first-team snaps, he barely saw the second team. Most of his time on the field was spent behind an offensive line composed of 3rd, 4th, even 5th stringers. According to RG3, most of the guys blocking for Shedeur were waived the next day. And the results showed. Sanders was sacked 5 times in one game. 2 of those sacks? Holding the ball too long. The rest? He never had a chance. No protection, no timing, no real opportunity to showcase his talent. Dillon Gabriel, by comparison, got significantly more time with the starter-level group. He had time to breathe, space to throw, NFL-caliber receivers running routes. Shedeur? He was throwing to guys who may never touch a regular season NFL field. How is that fair competition? RG3 called it out for what it was, a flawed evaluation process. If you're going to claim it's an open QB competition, the reps need to reflect that. The conditions need to be leveled. Otherwise, it's not a battle, it's a setup. And when you watch the tape, it's hard to argue with him. Because Shedeur wasn't just being measured, he was being managed, and not in his favor. What the Browns called evaluation is starting to look a whole lot more like elimination. And if that's what really happened behind the scenes, the question isn't whether Shedeur underperformed. It's whether he ever had a fair shot to begin with. If there's one thing the Cleveland Browns are known for, besides heartbreak, it's the endless quarterback carousel. Since 1999, the Browns have started over 40 one-year fill-ins, flash-in-the-pan hopefuls, and every time a new face shows promise, something derails it. Injuries, coaching changes, bad management, or just bad luck. Now, Shedeur Sanders is looking like the next name on that list, and he hasn't even played a regular season snap. What makes this situation even worse is that fans have seen this story before. A young, talented QB flashes potential, but instead of nurturing that spark, the organization smothers it. Either by misusing them, rushing them, or worse, never giving them the opportunity in the first place. Shedeur was supposed to be different, not because of his draft slot, but because of what he showed when the lights came on. For the first time in a long time, Browns fans And yet here we are again. Another quarterback buried by internal politics. Another competition that doesn't look anything like a merit-based process. Another missed opportunity to do things right. The Browns didn't just mess with the depth chart, they messed with the future. Because while other teams are grooming their young quarterbacks, the Browns are fumbling one that could have finally flipped the script. And the longer this drags out, the more it feels like history repeating itself, not because of fate, but because the Browns can't seem to get out of their own way. You expect fans to speak out, maybe even reporters, but when a former NFL quarterback and former Brown calls attention to how badly things are being handled, it hits harder. That's exactly what Robert Griffin III did. RG3 didn't just toss out opinions. He came with facts, film, and context. As someone who's been in Cleveland's locker room, he knows what dysfunction looks like. And this wasn't new. He called out the team by name for mishandling Shedeur Sanders' evaluation and crushing the illusion that this was ever a fair quarterback battle. He broke it down surgically. Shedeur never got first-team reps. He played behind waived offensive linemen. He faced pressure on nearly every snap. He ran with different receivers than his fellow rookies. No equal footing, no real chance. And then he dropped the headline. They're setting him up for failure. When a veteran QB with nothing to gain steps in and says what half the fan base is already thinking, that matters. It shifts the perception from speculation to validation. But he didn't stop there. RG3 went a step further and suggested the Browns trade, calling the environment toxic and unsuited for proper quarterback development. That's not rumor, that's damage control advice, live on camera. So when RG3 says this isn't just about who's QB3 or QB4, he's not talking about football anymore. He's talking about culture, respect, structure, stability, all the things Cleveland keeps pretending they've figured out, but never actually have. And this time, it's not just fans calling them out. It's a former player who lived through the chaos himself. This isn't just a quarterback controversy anymore. It's turned into something much bigger, a cultural divide. On one side, you've got die-hard Browns fans, loyal through decades of disappointment, defending the system. To them, this is just another rookie who needs to wait his turn. They're used to false hope. But on the other side, there's a different kind of loyalty, and it doesn't belong to the Browns. It belongs to Shedeur Sanders. These fans aren't showing up for Cleveland. They're showing up for 12. Prime-time bloodline, Colorado loyalty, NIL-era energy. And most importantly, they're not waiting for a franchise to decide when Shedeur's ready. They already believe he is. You see it all over social media. Hosts saying, "I'm only tuning in to watch Shedeur." Twitter threads trashing the Browns coaching staff. TikToks comparing Shedeur to Russell Wilson and CJ Stroud. Instagram edits with captions like, "Free Shedeur." And it's not just casual fans either. You've got content creators, former players, influencers, even celebrities, picking sides in this growing battle between brand versus badge. The Browns may think they're controlling the depth chart, but they're not controlling the narrative. Because in 2025, fandom doesn't follow logos, it follows people. And when that person is Shedeur Sanders, with that poise, that family name, and that national spotlight, you better believe he brings a fan base with him. The Browns didn't just bench a quarterback, they sparked a new kind of war. One where the fans aren't rooting for the team anymore, they're rooting for the player. When RG3 casually dropped the idea of a trade, it didn't sound like a hot take, it sounded like a solution. And as wild as that sounds, it may not be far off. Shedeur Sanders sitting at QB4 isn't just a weird depth chart placement, it's a ticking time bomb. You've got a rookie with star potential, a national spotlight on his every move, fans riding with him, not the franchise, and a coaching staff making it increasingly clear he's not part of the plan. That's when trades start to feel like escape hatches, not punishment. RG3 didn't say it for shock value. He said it because he sees what's coming. This current setup can't last. Either the Browns commit to developing Shedeur seriously, or they risk losing him, whether officially or emotionally. And let's be honest, other teams are watching. Front offices around the league would love to pick up a pro-ready QB with composure, talent, and marketability for cheap, especially if his current team is undervaluing him. The idea of Shedeur getting a fresh start in a system that believes in him isn't far-fetched. It's being fantasized about by fan bases who know their team could use him. Meanwhile, every game that passes with Shedeur on the bench, the pressure grows. The narrative thickens. The clock ticks louder. The Browns think they're in control because they have the contract. But in reality, public perception is writing its own scouting report. And if Cleveland lets this fester too long, they won't just lose a promising quarterback. They'll lose the trust of a generation that's not afraid to pick the player over the team. This might look like a Browns-only problem, but it's not. What's happening with Shedeur Sanders in Cleveland is part of a much bigger shift in the NFL. For years, quarterbacks, especially rookies, were expected to wait quietly, earn your spot, respect the system, be patient. But those days, they're fading fast. A new generation of players has grown up in the NIL era. They've built brands before they ever took an NFL snap. They've been mic'd up in high school. They've done national interviews in college. They know their value before the team does. Shedeur Sanders is just the first NFL rookie to act like it. He didn't throw a tantrum. He didn't blast the franchise. What he did was far more disruptive. He demanded respect, silently. And that silence? It's creating way more noise than a viral tweet ever could. NFL franchises are built on power structures. Head coach at the top, rookies at the bottom. But that hierarchy is being challenged, and not by drama, but by professionalism. By players who are prepared, who perform, and who refuse to be underestimated just because of a draft slot. Shedeur's situation is showing every rookie quarterback and every front office what happens when a player doesn't wait for permission to be taken seriously. And it's showing every fan that in today's NFL, reputation can move faster than a depth chart. Whether Cleveland realizes it or not, they're on the wrong end of a cultural shift. Because the next generation of stars, they're not just playing the game, they're playing the system. At the end of the day, this isn't just about one quarterback. It's about what happens when a franchise ignores the moment right in front of them. Shedeur Sanders showed poise, leadership, and actual production. Everything you'd want in a young quarterback. But instead of building on that, Cleveland buried it. And now, they're stuck in a media storm, a fan revolt, and a national conversation they can't control. Was it sabotage? Was it politics? Was it fear of what he represents? Whatever it was, it sent a message loud and clear. Performance isn't always the most important thing in the NFL. Narrative is. And when a player like Shedeur threatens to rewrite that narrative before his turn, Cleveland can still fix this. But time is running out. If they don't move soon, whether it's giving him meaningful reps, making a trade, or finally being transparent, they risk losing more than a player. They risk repeating the cycle that's haunted their franchise for decades. Because if Shedeur Sanders slips through their hands, this won't go down as just another QB that didn't work out. It'll go down as the day Cleveland fumbled the future. Again.